Shulpaneswar to Kabirabad. Water, rock, cascade, sound and curve. The Narmada is composed of these 5 elements. Few rivers would have as close a partnership with rocks as the Narmada. She is punctuated by waterfalls, again and again. As for her curves, she simply does not know how to flow in a straight line. Nor does she remain silent for long. All these elements were found in Shulpaneswar, except the one most likely in a mountain region. There were no waterfalls. Not a single cascade in the entire Jhari. We were walking along a high mountain path lined with coral trees on both sides. Some days ago, they would have been in full bloom, but now there was not a single flower. The heat of the sun was fierce as we approached Navagaon. A large dam was being built there, across the Narmada, the largest of all the dams on the river. The priceless water of the Narmada would be conducted over long distances, by canals, to thirsty fields. Gujarat would change completely. Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, and even far away Rajasthan would benefit. Several other dams were being built on the Narmada. As a result, hundreds of villages would be obliterated. Hundreds of miles of riverbank would be submerged. The Narmada's beauty would undoubtedly be diminished because of the dams, but her usefulness would be multiplied 1,000-fold. The Narmada's abundance of water, largely unused till now, would be harnessed. There would neither be the danger of devastating floods nor the fear of terrible drought. People would no longer have to live with an anxious eye on the sky. The land would no longer be feared for lack of rain. Animals would no longer die of hunger. Large tracts of uninhabited land, desolate and useless up to now, would be usable for cultivation. These dams would be reserve banks of water. They would store rainwater during the monsoon and then release it gradually over the rest of the year to irrigate fields and generate electricity. We were walking along the road that ran parallel to the Narmada between Navagaon and Goda. We could see the river rippling for a long distance from the road. Malay was walking for the first time. He was tortured by thirst. "I feel like drinking the whole river," he said. We walked all day in the sun and reached Goda in the evening. There was a big road bridge over the Narmada. We stayed in a hut beside it. The mountains receded beyond Goda. Farewell, dear Vindhyas, farewell, dear Satpuras. Both of you have come this far with the Narmada, at times close by, at times far off, protecting her. Now you may live free of care. It looked as if the Vindhyas had indeed left, but the Satpuras on the south bank kept pace with the river at a distance until, reassured, it too retreated. Now the sea cannot be far away. Off we went at dawn, along the stony bank of the Narmada. Anil walked along, picking up pebbles of beautiful shapes, colors, or textures. We have just begun our trip, I thought, already weighed down with supplies. How long will he be able to carry this extra load? Next we came to Indravarna, where there is another big road bridge over the Narmada. We met a young Bengali sadhu there. We stayed overnight in Dhaneswar. The village was located some distance from the Narmada, but her waters had ravaged the village in the flood of 1970. People still remember that devastating event. On we went at the crack of dawn. At Saharab, women were bathing at the riverside. Children were swimming. A herd of cattle was drinking water. Water carriers with pitchers on their heads were coming and going along paths in a cloud of dust. We went on over undulating hillocks. The Narmada withdrew far away. We were very thirsty. After a while we met an aged couple living in a shanty. Where can we get water? I asked. From the Narmada. How far is the river from here? About a mile. Some time ago the old lady had fallen heavily, so she could not manage to walk. The old man had to fetch her share of water too. He hobbled along with difficulty, leaning on a stick. How ever could he fetch water from so far? Don't you have a son? We have a son and a daughter-in-law too, but they live separately, said the old man and fell silent. His silence spoke volumes. We were terribly thirsty, but it was unthinkable to ask for water. Besides, they would not have had enough for the 4 of us. The old man gave us directions, and we soon arrived in Jaurpati, also known as Kumbheswar. Here there was a boat with a sail on the Narmada. The room was extremely attractive but had been closed up for some time, so it had become rather dusty. We swept and dusted until it shone like a royal reception hall. The priest was Maharashtrian by origin. His ancestors had moved here several generations ago, and his family had now become locals. We left in the morning. Further on, a few water carriers were fetching water from the river. Isn't there a well in your village? I asked. Oh yes, there is, but we have always drunk water from the Narmada, so well water tastes insipid to us. Along the way we met a farmer. The Karajan river is ahead, he told us. It is very muddy. Come on, I will guide you across it and go to my field afterwards. We were walking carefully along a riverside track. The track was almost hidden in powder-fine sand. We were out of breath from all the climbing. At one place, Malay lost his footing and rolled all the way down at top speed. Anil had a camera with him and took several photos. I wish he had taken a photo of Malay's fall and preserved it for posterity. Malay's fall made me more careful and cautious lest an even worse fate should befall me. The farmer guided us over the quagmire where the Karajan river made the Narmada. We kept going all day. In the mood for walking, we did not even stop to make lunch. But by noon our steps faltered. Our pace slowed, shoulders ached, and energy levels dipped. We resolved to walk less the next day. But every day we walked a little bit more than the previous. Gujarat was suffering through a serious drought. Most wells and pools had dried up due to the lack of rainfall. The water table had sunk too. Crops were dying in the fields. Our eyes longed for greenery. We arrived at Auri, a big village, in the evening. We had heard the cries of peacocks in the last few days. Here we got to see peacocks really close up. They perched in the trees and on the roofs of houses and came right into the yards. We were fascinated by their long undulating necks and their even longer tails. Anil and Malay were as happy as children to see them and collected peacock feathers. We turned our attention to the local cattle, equally wonderstruck. The cows and oxen were huge and had massive horns. We stayed away from the animals out of mutual fear and respect. Drought notwithstanding, we got milk every day. Bringing milk in their own containers, the villagers stood in line at one spot. The dairy vehicle from the neighboring town came every day, measured the quantity of milk, and then took it away. The villagers received their payment the following day. The temple priest was from Madhya Pradesh. He had completed the Narmada pilgrimage on his own. As the saying goes, 1 is bliss, 2 happiness, 3 quarrels, 4 calamity. There was deep dust on the bank of the Narmada, fine, flowery, silky dust. When a herd of cattle went past, a cloud of dust arose. The next day we reached Asa in the evening. Here there is a temple in a spacious compound on the high bank of the Narmada. Food, electricity, and water were available everywhere, as were lodging and meals. Ready, cooked food was offered absolutely free, but in return it was obligatory to join in the kirtan that went on day and night in the temple. We left in the morning. In the afternoon we came to Mani Nageswar and went to have a look at the place. The temple Dharamsala was on a high cliff above the Narmada. We stayed there overnight. There were several siblings in the shrines, each with an attendant bronze serpent. "Have any snakes come here?" I asked the priest. "Several times. There's a snake living in that tree, but it hasn't bitten anyone yet." "Are not you afraid of it?" "I can't say I am not a bit nervous, but it won't bite unless it is stepped on. I was sleeping one night, it was winter. A snake slithered through the roof and fell on my bed. Finding a nice warm place, it went to sleep beside me. When I realized it was there, I was terrified at first. Then after a while I too went to sleep. In the morning my guest had gone." After a pause, he went on, "There are few creatures as beautiful as a snake. When it sloughs off its skin, its luster can clearly be seen in the new skin. At that time it really looks very attractive. I have become quite fond of snakes." We left at dawn. We walked through the fields until we reached Kabirabad, a large island in the middle of the Narmada. We wondered whether to go there or not. According to the rules of the pilgrimage, we could neither cross the water of the Narmada nor go to an island. Yet I still remember a poem I read as a child about Kabirabad. I had longed to see it for years. How could we go on without seeing it? I might never get another chance to see it. Besides, there was only a narrow channel between the island and the bank. The scales tipped towards going. I couldn't bear to miss it. If I let this opportunity slip, I would always regret it. We decided to go. After all, we were not traditional pilgrims observing the rules. So, with an apology to Mother Narmada for going to Kabirabad, we ventured enthusiastically into the Narmada's shallow channel.